Given the extensive appreciation of my recent music, I thought I'd give you a guided tour of my prior musical career.
We have made mistakes in public, they are written on our walls.
I obviously love music, and you're probably aware that I hate life, and music is a reasonable antidote for life. You know, if there's gonna be life, you may as well have music to balance it out somewhat. I was in a band when I was at school. It was a classic rock band. I just did the vocals. I mean, I wrote some music to two guitarists, a bassist and a drummer. I don't know if I can recommend any of that now. I mean, it worked at the time until it didn't work, and then I wanted to keep creating music. I mean, I've always had that instinct within me, and like as a child I was writing MIDI stuff on the computer. I've never been any good at lead guitar. I'm just really clumsy at those fiddly motions. I cannot master it. I can do rhythm guitar and I can program stuff. I can kind of play the piano. I make something that works with my resources, and I have a voice too. I keep it in here. I borrowed a 4-track cassette recorder from school, because yeah, I went to school in the 1970s apparently. And I wrote some strummy guitar songs, kind of Elliott Smithy. I would double track the vocals a bit when there was actually room between the tracks. You know, I've actually lost those recordings now, and I'm not sure if they're worth recovering. I think I kind of intentionally lost them. One thing I didn't lose, another musical project at the time, a friend of mine would secretly record one of our teachers through the lessons and through private conversations, and often try and provoke him to say funny stuff. And I would remix that into kind of techno songs on Cubase. And of course that was popular within the school and nowhere else. The stuff that actually might be worth hearing started when I got this wonderful machine. Yeah, product placement in my YouTube videos. I mean, product placement for a machine from like 2006, but this is the Boss BR600 recording console. I guess 8-track, even though 5, 6, 7 and 8 are thrown together as stereo, but still you could bounce stuff down and get a whole load of tracks on there. And it has an internal drum machine, which, yeah, it sounds a bit hokey in retrospect, but considering the other resources available at the time, I mean, this was a time when your computer time, my computer time, was rationed. I didn't get much tech access, so this machine was a huge resource to me. And I had loads of musical ideas to get down, and I got them down into this. Yeah, I worked with this for like a year and a half, just recording a few covers, lots of my own stuff. Immediately published it online on MySpace. And eventually I threw some of the tracks together to call it an album, just in case that would get any more listeners. And it probably didn't. I wasn't yet confident as a lyricist. Sorry to say competent. I wasn't yet competent as a lyricist, and the microphone was pretty bad. I was still pitching the guitar down to make bass sounds, but this has pretty good effects on it. Seriously, if you find yourself in 2007, this is what you need. Boss BR600, the Surname approval device of the past, and at least half of my listeners really enjoyed it. Me. And the other half was just when a friend finally ventured to listen to it, and it must be really embarrassing to hear the music of someone you know personally, and it's kind of them expressing themselves artistically, but I just feel you're kind of too close and you'll hear all the flaws. I mean, admittedly, I don't hear that in any of my friends' work. So after a year and a half of writing and recording my own material and immediately publishing it, I figured it needed a bit of order to it, so I took the best tracks and threw them together into an album. It's called Vain. One thing I regret is saving it all as 128 kilobit per second MP3s, which I've never actually had a problem with. They sound fine to me until I put my own music into it. I intentionally didn't keep the raw tracks of each song because I just figured if I did, then I'd go back and be perfectionist about it. So I'd program the drums throughout the whole song. You program like what one measure is like, and that would be one pattern, and then you string the patterns together over the number of bars you have. It's touch response on like this, the drum pad, and how hard you hit it can affect the velocity of the hit. So you'd hear the metronome going across, and you could beat it out. Or you could just pause the metronome and scroll through and program stuff. It's an awesome machine. Get this in the past. Vain has quite a bit of different stuff to it. I was trying pop songs, I was trying like electronica, generally rock. It will be rock. I guess indie-ish rock. And my lyrics are always trying to be clever. You may have noticed that's my thing. Even if I didn't recognize it at the time, I worked through some of the trauma that was contemporary then into songs. I got a bass guitar along the way, but I was still on that crappy mic for quite a while. I think the song Hover is one of my best. Then I immediately moved on and recorded some more stuff, and the second album is called Nervous Wreck, but it's spelled like wreck. You see, it's on the screen. This was there. And this is a briefer and a darker and a more aggressive listen. There's a kind of focused negative energy to it, whereas Vain was a lot more scattered and me just trying out any idea that might fit. This one is more cohesive and thus less diverse. I think the song Show still stands up, and I like fell out the fast life, as it says here, you see. Yeah, that's why I wore this. That's why I'm sweating so much. This is too warm for me in July. And I started performing around Edinburgh a bit. I mean, I've never had much of an audience.
Sleep now, sleep whilst you can, and alone.
People didn't respond much. It wasn't of interest to many people, but I befriended people in the Edinburgh music scene. It was kind of them to give me the listening time, like you right now. Thank you. Why the fuck are you doing this?
Stay alive when there's nothing better to do. We stay alive.
After Nervous Wreck, I noticed that my new ideas were kind of diverging into two categories. There was, well, the first category being much the same, and the other being kind of sunnier stuff. Do you remember when life had things worth living for in it? I mean, like, almost. I channeled this into two separate, what I've called EPs. I mean, they were never released on vinyl. The EP is a skeuomorphic term. Look that up. Skeuomorphism. So this is a choking poetry EP with fast rhythm guitar and distorted lead piano and the same old approach. And the Tame EP, these were each 6 songs, around 20 minutes each, I think. Maybe like 22. Tame was pretty acoustic. I was kind of trying out new stuff, and I wasn't sure I was confident with it, but I kind of just went ahead with it anyway.
And when I see you choking poetry, well, aren't you left?
After that, we reached like the start of 2011. I was at university at the time and I hated university then. That was awful. That's another story. But I had an interest in activism, bloody student activism. Yeah, student activism, what of it? I mean, at the time it was the recession and the bloody coalition government had got in. My first election I could vote in as an adult. And they put the fucking Tories in. Why? They've been in ever since. It's ridiculous. They literally want to make the country worse for most of its citizens. That's what they do. It's their creed. And I'd like to say there were always political themes within Paper Truth, but it started to become pretty focused around then, and most of this next album kind of came to me in one big rush, and I guess I also used focusing on recording this album as a distraction from how much I hated university and how I was getting very unwell at the time. I had a chronic pain condition that started around then and has never stopped since. So I just threw myself into it, and the album's called Why Relent, and there's 13 tracks on there. Around this time I finally got access to a decent microphone, so the vocals have come forward in the mix a bit less murky. I did a launch gig for the very little audience I had, even though I really struggled to get there because I was struggling to walk at the time. But hey, I managed. Recorded between January and May 2011, there you go. In my bedroom. It's true. True stuff, like Paper Truth. Oh, the band name. So this name is actually a misheard Bad Religion lyric. On the Process of Belief album, there's a song called Epiphany. It's awesome. And he references a painful truth. And I've always heard that as Paper Truth, but I eventually found out it wasn't that. And I kind of love that. I've done that with other misheard lyrics. If you see something in someone else's art that you later find is literally not there, then congratulations on that art that you've just come up with. That is yours via a natural mistake. And hey, isn't every good idea a mistake? No, bad ideas are mistakes. Cut this part out. There's stuff on there about heteronormativity and gay panic defense. Stuff on there about patriarchy, depression, science, bullheadedness, ego, sex and how I didn't enjoy it, abortion, religion as state, Nick Clegg, generational apathy, binary choices, and pop music. It's probably a bit adultish. I mean, it was kind of intentionally, I just take anything I want to write about and turn it up to 11, hence Why Relent. I'd like to say this still stands up. I'd like to. Why Relent was more of a first half of the year project, and then the second half of the year was a different album called Is This Microphone On? And I guess that's more personal stuff on there. But it was kind of that thing when they say it's like the personal is the political, it was the kind of political gender stuff on there. Stuff about how I was sick of the education system. It's a less aggressive sound, more acoustic. It's kind of the sequel to Tame. In 2012 I didn't find as much time for music. I mean, I was really unwell and I had a day job. I'd kind of given up on live performance. I mean, the audience gave up long ago. That year I only came up with 4 songs, which, considering my average in prior years, was like 24 maybe. But whatever, I called those the Equalizer EP, and I think they are like 4 very singular sing-songs that hopefully stand the test of time, at least compared to my other work.
It's not holy yet.
It was around then that the BR600 gave up the ghost in the machine. It's gone kind of senile, like I think the buttons don't really respond properly anymore, and like I remember holding those buttons down real hard to finally get them to press. It just became really difficult to work with, so I thought I'd retire it and get the next model up, the Boss BR800, and it's shit. This is shit. You can't program the drum bits on here, you have to do it on a computer, and I was kind of avoiding using a computer. I liked this setup, that setup. This console does everything the BR600 does, except much less and worse. I got really high noise floors on it as well. It was like there was a ground loop going into it. I've never really figured this thing out. I kind of keep it around for occasional jobs, but I'm really not fond of it. Still, I stumbled forward with it and recorded a few things. 2013 was kind of much the same. I wrote a small few things, but I was struggling in general. I have an untreatable chronic pain condition that severely cripples me, and through just a continuum of misfortune, I lost my job, my partner, and my home. Sounds like pretty good song material, but I just wasn't coming out with much. I think the poorer resource there kind of inhibited the amount of material I was coming up with. It was just very difficult to work on. And 2013 was ghastly. That was a really horrible year. I don't like years in general. They are worse than days. They are like 365¼ times as bad as days are. But even amongst years, 2013 was a terrible year. I was really unwell with a condition that cannot be treated. I did do what at the time kind of felt like a one-off single, the song Girl Style, though I did later throw it onto an album. We'll get around to that. Did a few promotional things for a women's centre in Edinburgh, but I wasn't very active as a musician that year, and I was hating life more than usual. Went forward to 2014, came up with a few more things that year, and I threw it together onto an album called Severs. And yeah, that title alludes to how I was pretty sure I was done with Paper Truth and being alive. Paper Truth split up over creative differences. I just figured I was out of ideas. I really detested being alive and could just wrap it up now and die. Spoiler alert, I never got around to that. Not yet, anyway. Not in this dimension. I think Severs stands up pretty well. None of it feels like relative juvenilia yet, after 5 years.
You will leave me in the grips of the pressure. You must leave me like the scavenger said.
All the shit that didn't make these albums I've thrown onto collections called What Remains. And if you thought main canon Paper Truth was bad, just you wait for this stuff.
I am insomniac, the night knows me well.
I was kind of sick of the setup of recording music, and I guess I knew I had to change my approach and start doing stuff on a computer like people in the 21st century do. And I was kind of bored of writing stuff by myself, so I sought collaborations. There are 2 collaborative projects from the time in 2015 that you can find scraps of online. There's not that much to show off. I wish there was more because I really was energized by collaborating with these people. That's 2 separate people on 2 separate projects.
Bought you a pocket watch so you remember our days. Fulfill the tragic role that I must play.
I'd never managed to work with other musicians for ages. I just don't have social skills. So yeah, those things are partially online. You can hear those.
Fragility, stillness risen around us in this radio silence.
And that kind of refreshed my aptitude a bit. I was coming up with new songs and recording them into a computer. I also sold out. I mean, one of the many ways I've sold out so many ways, but never got paid. I sold out and did parody songs for YouTube. Like, you like parody songs, don't you? You like YouTube. You like white British guys with fringes. That's what you like. You like that.
Gonna get some books, you know just where to look to find me. I'll be in the library. I should be better than the other guys you've interviewed. This engine's on to fat control.
And eventually my songwriting mojo kind of returned, and I didn't want to call it Paper Truth anymore. It felt like that was over, and it would be kind of embarrassing to make new stuff and drag that legacy behind me, and I wished I'd died, and that's a means of dying it. And yeah, since 2016 I've cut my music out in time, and that's also on there for free. I can't pretend it's that much distinct from Paper Truth. So that's the Paper Truth story. If you like this video, wow! I mean,